St. Paul's Islands are located in the northeast coast of Malta. They are actually one island which sometimes gets separated from a point called the Shallow Isthmus due to a high tide, and is perceived as two. When they are split, the smaller one on the east is known as Quartz Island. Both islands are made up of upper coralline limestone. The rock types found nearby are upper coralline limestone in abundance, blue clay, and Globigerina limestone. Previously, the islands might have been connected to the coast by Globigerina limestone at sea level. Possibly, an arch like the Azure window would have formed with upper coralline limestone bridging the islands and the coast. This eventually would have eroded and collapsed to result in complete separation. The slight tilt to the east of St. Paul's Islands is synonymous with the tilt of the rest of Malta. This is resulting from Malta's position on the Malta Graben. The northern part of Malta is characterized by a series of horsts, highlands, and grabens, valleys, which explains the continuous uphills and downhills when traveling towards Marfa. These features are formed due to fault lines, which sink or raise the land affected. The fault lines formed due to the plate tectonical separation between the Malta-Sicily plate from the African plate. Contrary to popular belief, sandy beaches in Malta are not formed by the valleys behind them. Mellieha Bay was formed due to coastal erosion, and the sand results from that eroded material and marine sediments which have been dragged in. The present Mellieha Bay is a drowned coastline. In the past, there were many valleys and freshwater rivers which carried out to the Malta-Sicily Channel. The sea level has risen over 120 meters since then. The many pocket beaches and coves formed are a result of blue clay and Globigerina limestone found at sea level with no upper stronger rock to hang over. At the end of the peninsula, Laħrax tal-Mellieħa is found. These are fast eroding cliffs which have been an upper coralline limestone overhang that collapses when underlying clay erodes. Developing land on the coastline affects the sandy beach. Concretization along the coast stops the erosion of rock which supplies sand to the beach. The more concrete, the less sand regeneration. Due to current sea level rise, the sandy beach is sinking.
This figure is showing the journey I took from Marsa Scala to Delimara Peninsula. The dominant rock type of the Marsa Scala Delimara coastline is Globigerina limestone. Globigerina limestone varies in thickness around Malta, reaching its maximum of 207 meters around Marsa Scala. It is a soft yellow to pale grey fine-grained limestone featuring tests of planktonic globigerinid foraminifera. Globigerina limestone is subdivided into three members: the lower Globigerina limestone, the middle Globigerina limestone, and the upper Globigerina limestone. These three members have different properties from each other. Middle Globigerina limestone is the most abundant member in the Delimara Marsa Scala coastline. Being a soft rock, it is easily eroded. This coastline has experienced differential erosion, forming coves separated by headlands. Coves have formed as the sea would have eroded into stronger rock, at the coast being the upper Globigerina limestone, exposing the softer rock, which is the middle Globigerina limestone, which erodes at a faster rate. The harder rock remains jutting out into the water, forming headlands. Over the years, these headlands have been exposed to intense wave action, which resulted in discontinuities in the rock. These discontinuities manifest as fractures caused by stresses, forming parallel and straight lines. Eventually, as the sea continuously seeps in, sea caves form in the less resistant bedrock. The erosive forces persist, breaking through the sea cave to the other side of the headland, ultimately giving rise to the formation of an arch. After walking past St. Thomas Bay, which is a sandy beach in Marsa Scala, you find the natural arch in the headland called the Munshar Window. As you keep walking on the Munshar cliffs, you'll find two coves, one called Il-Ħofra L-Kbira and the other one called Il-Ħofra Żgħira. In between these two coves, you find another natural arch called Il-Ħofrit Window. As you walk past Il-Ħofra Żgħira, you find St. Peter's Pool. Here one can find natural sea rock pools. These are a geomorphic feature formed usually by salt crystallization. Since this coastal region features soft Globigerina limestone, the relentless action of waves, particularly during the high tide, carves out depressions, crevices, and small basins on the rock surfaces. Over time, the constant weathering of these rocks contribute to the creation of shallow pockets that become the natural sea rock pools. The warm Mediterranean climate encourages evaporation, contributing to the concentration of salts in the water within these coastal formations. Also, close by one can find isolated stacks on the mainland called Camel Rocks. Here we find two different layers of rock. The upper layer seems to have been eroded more than the bottom one. Along this coastline one can see dark grey layers in the rock, known as calcareous marl and marly limestone. Some Globigerina limestone has a grey colour because it is not sufficiently oxidized. Originally much of the rock was all grey. Marl is a rock containing clay and calcium carbonate. It is formed from the erosion of other rocks during weathering. As rocks erode, small sedimentary particles pile up on top of each other. Eventually, these become compacted together to form a new rock.
A number of small coastal caves and pocket beaches can be found along the southwestern coastline, as seen here in the Arlapsi locality. The coastal cliffs with large limestone faces include submerged and emergent sea caves, natural tunnels, and boulder screens.
There are the visible sea caves actively being cut at present sea level, mainly into the lower coralline limestone but also into the upper coralline limestone where these are at sea level. There are submerged caves formed at lower sea levels and elevated caves on the south coast that may have been cut by higher sea levels or before tectonic uplift of the land.
The area is rich in geomorphological features and karstic vegetation, with the seaward viewpoint being the most advantageous to witness this character of the coast.
The major fault that today bounds the southwest of Malta, the Malaq Fault, led to the movement of seabeds ultimately forming the scarp we see in the locality. Limestone rubble, in part produced by earth movements but also by storm and wave action in the relatively shallow sea, buried this early step in the seafloor and formed a talus fan sloping out southwards from the fault scarp.
The rock layers in these cliffs are responsible for the formation of boulder screens. The upper coralline limestone, which rests at the top layer of the rock, is weakened by erosion and leads to the collapsing of portions of the cliffs. Different sizes of boulder screens are formed as they slide down the clay slopes and rest at their base.
High cliffs of the lower coralline limestone, characteristic to the southwest coastline, are hard and resist erosion, but smaller faults parallel to the Malaq Fault create weaker zones that can be excavated by wave action to create sea caves. The Malaq Fault surface near Arlapsi shows the cleanly weathered surface of the break in the rock layers. The clean surface of such a fault can show the slickened sides, which demonstrate its direction of movement, which is seen here as to be almost vertical.